y'all, welcome back to Reality Check, please. I'm your host, Cassie, and happy Monday. We're back to recap Love Island USA Season 8, Episode 11. It was last night's episode, and although it felt not a filler episode, a lot kind of went on. We got a challenge, we had recouplings, we had conversations happen. It did feel like a little slow, maybe because we don't have like the drama with Sincere and Sol and Melanie anymore. I feel like everyone is pretty much like moving along or kind of like rolling with this season's punches. It's very different than last year, but honestly, I'm not mad about it. We have a lot to get into, so before we jump in, make sure you guys like, share, comment, subscribe. Let me know where you guys are watching from. We are on the road to 2,000 subscribers, and I can only do that with your help. So help engage in this content in this video with our channel any way that you can to help push our video on this channel out into the YouTube algorithm. With that all being said, let's jump right in. So episode 11, honestly, actually, before we jump in, if you guys missed After Sun this season, don't. They're doing it in a very different way where it actually works. We are getting so much more tea, so much more info, context. We're getting to see more behind the scenes of the dumped islanders. We don't really have a panel, which honestly, thank God. We didn't have Ariana on this first episode. I think she usually makes an appearance every After Sun. I don't know if that's going to change, but she wasn't on this week's After Sun. We heard from Bea, we heard from Sean. We got to see them turn their phone on for the very first time, go through their social medias, see how much their social media has gone through, be on phone calls with them, FaceTimes. It was so good. We saw them react to what people were saying to them online. They filmed it all, and then they went on After Sun with Sierra and Duffy, and they asked a lot of great questions, and we got a lot of great answers. It had more to do with the Islanders versus everybody else's opinions, which I personally loved. So if you were thinking of skipping After Sun, do not do it. I actually am so glad that I watched it because I was so close to also skipping it. It could be very boring. The only reason I watched it, I think, was really because of Sierra from Summer House, and I'm glad that I did. So if you guys watched it, what do you think? We did post our short videos onto TikTok, on social media like Facebook and Instagram. And I posted them yesterday and one this morning about After Sun. We were recapping it and it was so good. So definitely check those out. They're going to be on our Love Island playlist and give me your thoughts. So After Sun was episode 10, but episode 11, which is what we got yesterday, was a pickup after Friday night's episode after the recoupling and Bea's dumping. Honestly, that was such a hard to watch. I watched that episode several times because I was like recapping, going back to check, just double checking, like fact checking and stuff. And I cried every single time. I don't know why this season I'm just so much more emotional with the dumpings. I don't know if it was just kind of like because I like Bea and I like, Sean. But if anybody else was emotional, let me know because I felt kind of like crazy crying over Sean and Beatriz going home. Also, it was very obvious that Beatriz and Gabriel had a connection, or so I thought, because we learned in this episode that he kind of moved on pretty quickly. It was like Beahu, but we're going to talk about that throughout the episode. But we did pick up where Friday night left off, right? And that was with Bea going home. Gabriel was very emotional. We had some Islanders who were recoupled have conversations. One of them being Jen and Gabriel, Corbin and Melanie, Kenzie and Caleb, and Sol and Sincere. Now, I did peep something, and Manny peeped it too when we were watching the episode. I think it was before the conversations were happening. Sincere was in the kitchen and he was speaking to, I think, Trinity. And he said something along the lines of, like, I was hoping it would be Melanie. At first watch, it almost sounded as if, or it came across as if he was wanting her to go home. At this point, I cannot trust anything I see, not even see and hear with Sincere, because he can be telling somebody one thing and then tell the next person a completely different story. So honestly, with Sincere, we will never know the truth. We will never know what he truly feels because he says so many different versions of his truth. So it's very unfortunate because it almost feels like we'll never really know what he's thinking or what's the truth in how he's feeling. So during these conversations, we got a lot of good little information. Jen and Gabriel are speaking in all the feels, and he's basically telling her, like, it's not your fault. You're a bombshell. You're supposed to be doing what you're doing. She felt really bad, but she's actually excited that she's in a couple. And he basically told her, like, don't worry, I'm not upset. I am kind of just hurt that Bea left. He was crying a lot. He said, just kind of respect if you see me cry. Like, it has nothing to do with you. It's just because of heightened emotions and all these things. He then asked her, what do you like to eat in the morning? Trying to kind of at least make her feel like like it wasn't her fault and kind of give her like a sense of normalcy, at least not kind of steal her joy since being recoupled. So I liked that. He definitely tried to give a little bit of balance while also maintaining respectful for the fact that Bea just left. Now, we also had Caleb and Kenzie have a conversation, and this one threw me for a loop. I'm almost regretting pairing up Caleb and Kenzie because she is just so stuck on Corbin, and I'm kind of shocked about it. I did not think that she was this attached to Corbin. I think a lot of fans have noticed or did notice that a few episodes back they might have been intimate with each other, which could play a part in why she is so attached to him. But while she was having a conversation with Caleb, she also again wanted to be respectful, not take away his joy or steal his joy from also being recoupled. But she mentioned a red flag, and that was the fact that he was younger than her. He reassured her, like, it's only 2 years, 2.5 years, maybe. But that just was so crazy to me. The fact that okay, she's 24, he's 22, he's 21, but he'll be 22 in November, not that far away from now. And so it was honestly kind of crazy to hear her say that him being younger by 2 years was a red flag. I get it. You're on a reality show and you want what you want, but you were begging for somebody your type to come in. He comes in, he's 2 years younger. You were very uncomfortable from the beginning because you knew that he was your type. And now that you have him, it's almost like you don't want him. It's very confusing. And I'm kind of regretting putting them together because I feel like she's not really going to give Caleb a chance. Every single time that they're on camera, she's with Corbin. But we're going to get into that in a little bit. I wanted to also talk about Sol and Sincere's conversation and Corbin and Melanie. Now, Sol and Sincere, he's telling her he's excited. She's super also giddy. They're in soul ties. And she's saying, at least now we don't have to hide. Like we're in a couple. He's trying to also reassure her, which I like. But again, like I said, I cannot trust anything that he says because I do not know what is the truth. He tells everybody a different story and it's honestly confusing. Now, we also see Corbin and Melanie talk. And one thing about Corbin and Melanie versus Corbin and Kenzie, this could be just the way that things are being edited, but I feel like we learned so much more about Corbin in his conversations with Melanie. Like when he asked her for a kiss, the first time that they were talking, they talked about their future, how they are very much so alike. That's also why he picked her. In the speech, he spoke how in the short conversations that they have, like they noticed or he noticed that they are very much alike. They share like similar goals. He spoke about that again in the speakeasy with her. He very much has always wanted to, or shared that he always did want to talk to her and pull her. And now they really have no other choice but to explore each other. One thing I will give Melanie though, she is very much open to closing that chapter with Sincere. She's very aware that she still likes him, but she's not moving as if she wants to still pursue him. At least not in this episode. We did not see them speak once. So I think that's a good thing. I think that's a step in the right direction. Unlike Kenzie and Corbin, Kenzie is continuing to see Corbin and speak to him and kiss him and all these things, kind of disrespecting Caleb, but not really because she ends up talking to him after the fact. She's honest in telling him that, that they kissed. We're seeing two different stories kind of play out. I do feel bad for Melanie in the sense that she went from one triangle to the next. She was so excited to leave that love triangle with Sincere and Sol, and she kind of landed in a love triangle with Corbin and Kenzie. She even expressed to Corbin and Kenzie that she didn't want to do another love triangle, but that's kind of out of her hands. So I'm hoping that it all kind of plans out. I do like Corbin and Melanie together. I think that they work a lot better. Again, we find out so much more about him. We learned that he was Jamaican, Asian, and Black. I think he said Jablasian. That was cool. Like these are things that we did not know about. It took us how many episodes? Like over 5 episodes to find out about Corbin and find out about who he is, his background, his wants, his goals in life, like all these things. So I do like that aspect. Again, this could just be editing. It could just be what production is feeding us. But this is one couple or this is one love triangle that we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. Now, one thing that I did not like about Melanie, he was basically telling her, America put me in a very shitty position. And Melanie, because obviously he had to dump Bea, and Melanie, at least from the edit that we got, was very insensitive. She was like, I didn't think it was a shit position. This is how it was supposed to happen. We're supposed to explore each other. I was like, okay, a little tone deaf, but I guess you could have worded it a different way, but that's neither here nor there. I did appreciate when Corbin told her, your feelings are valid. You have every right to feel the way that you feel. You just can't be crashing out if you see Sincere and Sol holding hands. And she was adamant that was not going to happen. But we now know that at the end of the night, that's not how things happen. So as they were all getting ready, in the makeup room, in the glam room, getting ready for bed. Sol and Melanie had a conversation and they basically kind of made a truce. Sol said, I never really wanted to fight with you. It was just a very weird position to be in. Melanie was very respectful with her as well. I love that. She asked her, when you guys were together just now, did you kiss? Sol says yes. Melanie has a moment. She's very much emotional. I can understand where she's coming from. Her going the extra mile and saying, I'm going to sleep in soul ties, I think was a bit much. Casey clocking that and saying that it was for attention, I think was spot on. I think was a little dramatic. Not even Huda, like truly not even Huda. Huda may have been stalking them throughout the entire night and waking up every so many minutes or so many hours to see if Jeremiah and Iris were in bed together, but at least she slept in the same room. Like she did walk out, actually, now that I think about it, she did walk out in the middle of the night. She had a moment, but I think she ended up coming back. I did feel like Melanie sleeping in soul ties was a bit of like an attention grabber. Now, everybody in bed seems to be kissing. You have Sol and Sincere kissing, Caleb and Kenzie kissing, Gabrielle and Jen, I think, were also kissing. But before the night ended, we did hear Kata and Zach having a conversation about maybe not going or being so intimate because you never know how Love Island is going to go. You never know if somebody could come in and turn your head. I understood where Zach was coming from, but I think it definitely got Kata to feel some type of way. They have a conversation the next morning about it, but for the most part, that's where the night ended. They all wake up, and the next morning, some of the girls, like the OGs, they go to check on Melanie in Soul Ties. That's when they find out how much of a liar Sincere really is, and I think that the veil is starting to kind of fall, or the mask is starting to fall for the women in knowing and seeing that Sincere was kind of playing both sides. This is what I love about Melanie versus Huda. She's very much aware. She takes that information and chooses to be mature about it. I feel like if this were Huda and Jeremiah, it would have gone so different, which is why I don't like to compare the two. I think that Melanie is nowhere near as toxic and crazy as Huda. She is emotional. She is a little bit immature, but she kind of like picks herself up pretty quickly and moves on, which I love. Now, after the girls get ready, they all go down for breakfast. We have Casey and Sol having a conversation, and this is where their conversation first starts to like blossom in a way where I think Casey says or mentions how he was at some point maybe interested in Sol, and she said, you never said anything. I only really explored Sincere because he was the only one open. And I mean, it's true. Several of the women in their confessionals were saying, even Sol, that a lot of the men or a lot of the couples felt like they were closed off and it was very hard to have conversations without people tripping out. She was only able to really give her attention and explore Sincere because he was the only one willing to talk to her and explore her genuinely. And Casey starts to realize, like, man, had I maybe been a little bit more open, things could have been or played out very differently. This episode, I feel like, was huge in like conversations. We got to see a ton of conversations. Apart from having a challenge, we saw so many different conversations from beginning to end happening. This is why I feel like it was more of like a filler episode, although we had a challenge. But we, again, I think context wise was very important. So I'm not too mad about it. But we also had Corbin and Kenzie have a conversation in the pool. He wanted like a little kiss. She said, absolutely not. They continue to flirt. They end up in soul ties. Caleb clocks it, so does Sincere, and I think some of the other Islanders. Once they were in private, they did end up kissing and sharing a kiss. And this is why I feel like maybe we wasted of I mean, I don't want to say that we wasted a vote. I think that the votes, were bound to happen. Like we have at some point in the season we have to vote. I love that Kenzie's exploring, but I guess I'm just shocked that she's this into Corbin and Corbin's this into her. I always felt like their conversations were a little cringe. They were always more sexual conversations, at least from what we got. Because his conversations with Melanie are not the same from what we're watching, at least, or from what the editors put in the episodes. Who knows? Maybe they do have these types of conversations. Editors and producers have a storyline to tell, and they're going to stick to that storyline. So who knows? After Kenzie and Corbin have a conversation, Melanie and Kenzie have a conversation. I did appreciate their conversation. It was Melanie basically telling her, like, you're my girl in here. I want to let you know I want to explore Corbin, but I cannot go there until like you give me the green light. I understand where she's coming from. Did I think she needed the green light from Kenzie? No, but I think because Kenzie is still actively exploring Corbin, although she's in another couple, it was the respectful move to make. So I very much appreciate it. But Melanie and Corbin are in a couple now. I think that she has every right to kiss him and not really ask Kenzie for permission. but that's just me. You see, I'm slowly starting to warm up to Melanie again. I think that the situation with Melanie and Sincere was very damaging to the viewers. I think for Melanie's part, and even Sincere, he's also like on the chopping block with a lot of us. But when it came to Melanie, I think it brought out a lot of like the toxic traits or a lot of the drama stuff that we didn't want to see, right? Or that wasn't maybe like her best, the best version of herself. And we all have that. I'm very aware of that. But I am happy to see her kind of make the effort in closing that chapter with Sincere. Although she's very aware that she still likes him, she's putting in the effort to truly explore Corbin, even if it means at the expense of her friend also exploring him. But I mean, they're in a couple. I think she has every right to kiss him and explore him and have these conversations without really talking to Kenzie. That's just me though. Now, before they have their challenge, we did see a lot more conversations happening. We saw Kata and Zach talk about the night before. We saw Jen and Gabe continued to talk about their connection, and Casey and Anaya talking about when was the last time they had sex. Now, again, Zach put Kata in her head. They did get a little bit of clarity. They moved on from it for the most part. But I think that where Zach was coming from was honestly very fair. It is only like the first week and a half of Love Island, almost 2 weeks. And you still have so much more ahead of you than what you've already lived. So much can happen, so much can change. And I think that Zach having that mentality was honestly pretty wise and realistic. So I'm not mad at Zach for having that conversation or having that way of thinking. But what do y'all think? Now the challenge text comes in and they're playing some sort of like soccer, FIFA, World Cup type of challenge. Again, pretty disgusting. They have hot dogs in their mouths. At least this time it's not real ketchup. It's just slime. I don't mind the slime. I think slime I could do if I were walking around in mustard and ketchup backwash. That I would crash out over that alone. I think that walking around disgusting and dirty is crazy. I also have to know, do these islanders only have 2 showers in this villa? Because if they did, that would also drive me mad. In the main bathroom where we see and have cameras, I know that there is another private restroom that has like all the toilets and stuff, but in the main bathroom, there's only 2 showers. I would hope and pray that 12 people are not sharing 2 showers. I would hope and pray that there are more showers in the private bathrooms. If anybody knows the answer to that question, let me know in the comments because I would truly lose my mind if I had to walk around in pie, in slime, in all these things for longer than I would like. Now, for the most part, this challenge was pretty tame. We didn't have too many messy questions. It was very like sexy. We loved that we got to see a lot of couples, do their thing. And we love that. We also didn't see Melanie crush out over Soul and Sincere having their moment. There was no like pettiness, and I loved it. The most dramatic it got was when Zach and Kata had their question, and it left Anaya in her feels. I can understand why she would feel the way she did, but I do not think it's that deep. She held on to that like a dog with a bone. So Zach and Kata's question was, which Islander do you think or is walking around like they already won the league? They both chose KC because he's playing it safe. He didn't open up or explore something he showed interest to. Again, I do see where Kata said that maybe Anaya thought it was meant or directed at her or a dig at her, but I don't think it was. I think it's very fair. I think it's realistically, like I said, who else would they have picked? Everybody else is pretty much exploring. Casey and Anaya are the only other couple that maybe are kind of playing it safe and not exploring because at least Bryce spoke to Kata. He's having options and Trinity, early on stood on the red dot to explore Gabriel. But yeah, I think it was not that bad of a challenge. I don't think it was that bad of a shady question, but Anaya did not let that go. Now, after the challenge, we see more couples have conversations, one of them being Caleb and Kenzie. She spoke to him, and when they spoke, she said, we really had a connection where we did really great in the challenge. She's very aware that they do have a great connection and that they would make a great couple. She sees, and I don't know if it's just because she's on Love Island, she wants to do something different. She doesn't want to stick to her normal type or something that she would find back home. So having Corbin is a little bit more exciting for her. She's exploring a different type of person that maybe she couldn't find in Georgia, and that's fine. But then don't be asking for your type to come in on paper and then you're stuck on this other man, Corbin, because you were a little intimate with him. And I get it. She's doing Love Island right. Ariana praised her because she's doing Love Island right, having multiple connections. So, and I'm not mad that she has connections. I just, again, the way that she goes about it is a little weird. And Caleb even told her on the topic of them being a couple, he wants to kind of set that boundary or at least that level of respect. it is very alarming when he does see Corbin pick her up, touch her, be kind of physical with her. I think anybody in that position would feel alarmed or uneasy or not secure in their couple, especially because at least we didn't see a conversation with Kenzie and Caleb that entire day she was with Corbin. We did see a conversation with her and Corbin, her and Melanie. We did not see Caleb and her have a conversation. Maybe they did, they just didn't air it. So I do not blame Caleb for having a sense of doubt. Now, Kenzie did come clean and say, I did kiss him, and I still want to explore him. Caleb was very mature, very aware that he's on Love Island. He can't tell her what to do, but I think all he wants is respect and transparency at the end of the day. So I think Kenzie can give him that, I hope. Now, after the challenge was said and done and conversations were had, we did have them start to get ready for the end of the night, right? They all get dolled up, they go downstairs, have a little mixer, have conversations, all this good stuff. More conversations were had. We had Gabrielle and Jen have conversations. We had Kata and Trinity kind of scope them out and see, okay, Gabriella's moving too fast for their liking. But Trinity also said, what do we expect him to do? Like, yes, Bea just left, but do we expect him to be basically moping around? No, that's not real. That's not reality. That's not realistic. They're on Love Island. Now, I am shocked, and I did say this, I think, in our last video, that I was almost positive that he was going to wake up the next day or two and say, you know what, I can't do this. I miss Bea. I just don't feel comfortable here. I'm going to go. And that did not happen. I'm kind of shocked, but kind of not. This is Love Island. People leaving with people come few and far between. I don't think we got anybody leaving with anybody in the past 2 seasons. For USA, at least. Rob almost left, but ended up not and ended up staying. But we'll see. We'll see if Jen and Gabe stand the test of time. I don't think that they will, only because Jen, in her conversation with Gabe tonight, said that he's not her typical type. He was kind of flabbergasted and taken aback and said, I've never gotten that. But then they sealed it with a kiss. So, I mean, truly, you're there for a good time, not a long time, basically. I don't think that they would work out in the real world, but that's just me. We see Melanie and Corbin also have another conversation towards the very end, and they like where they're going. I am proud of Melanie. She didn't pull, at least not here in this episode. The night is still young. We still have tonight's episode. But she didn't pull Sincere from, at least from what we saw. She seems to be very committed in letting that chapter close, and I love that. Her and Corbin are kind of progressing slowly, which is great. You don't want to jump too fast in this, especially because Corbin also has a connection with Kenzie. I do love how they both feel, at least Melanie, feels safe with Corbin. I hope he doesn't play her like Sincere played her, because we know that he still likes Kenzie, but I'm hopeful that he will genuinely explore Melanie and kind of also progress that. I think the bigger conversations that were had tonight are going to be Sol and Casey, and Anaya pulling Zach and Kata. We see Anaya pull Zach and Kata to kind of explain themselves, give a little bit more insight or context as to why they chose him for the challenge. I don't think it was that deep. I think she's reading too much into it. Also, the song that they chose, the Olivia Rodrigo song that they chose to put over their package, and like Casey talking to Sol, was acting. I feel like they were acting or trying to play as if Sol was coming in between a marriage. It was truly bonkers. All Casey and Sol are doing are having conversations, and even if you look at the footage, they're pretty far away from each other. They're not close. They're not being disrespectful. They're not kind of cuddling, flirting. I think they are having very realistic conversations. She says, because you did stay closed, we didn't even get to see if there could have been anything between us. I think that is very fair to say. I think that's a fair statement. He did express, and I think go into a little bit more detail after the challenge. I think he was led or kind of forced into doing that, but he did kind of express that he was interested, but he didn't do so mainly because of Sincere, and he wanted to maintain respectful. Guys, it was day, 5, 6, 7. He could have pulled her. It was still so early in this game in Love Island. We're not towards the end where couples are established. That's one thing that's frustrating me about this season. I feel like they're closing off too quickly, and I don't like that. Now, Anaya notices that Casey and Sol are having a conversation. She goes and interrupts them and pulls Casey for a chat. It was very awkward. You could tell that he, I think, started to nervous laugh, which I'm the type of person to do the same thing. And she kept telling him, like, stop laughing. I'm trying to have a conversation with you. And that was not helping. He then reassured her, like, you have nothing to worry about. But I think she's just getting in her head. And it was moments like this where I wish that Sean was still in the villa because Sean was still so very much so interested in her. When Sean expressed that he was interested in her, Anaya got all giddy because he was also one of her top selections. Although she didn't stand behind his door on night one, she stood behind Sincere and got coupled up with Casey by default. She could have stood behind Sean. Who knows who Sean would have picked, right? But yeah, I think that right now they're not being somebody else for Anaya in the villa is really doing her a disservice. I think she's kind of zoning in and having tunnel vision on Casey. And before Soul coming in, Casey was the same way. I feel like with Anaya, I'm hoping that with new bombshells coming in, Casa Amor, she's able to kind of loosen up a little bit, kind of relax and say, okay, let me explore. I would hate for her to get to the end with Casey and not have explored her connection and test it. I love them together. I want to see them at the end, but I also wouldn't mind seeing her and Sean leave together, right? Like, let's say that she doesn't leave with a real connection. Her and Sean rekindle at the end of this. I would love to see that too. While she's in the villa, I would love to see her get to the end, find a genuine connection, test it, do Love Island the right way. Don't lock in so early. I do appreciate when she's telling Casey, I don't want to be somebody that holds you back, but she's almost doing it in a way where she's making him feel bad, I think. Again, I think it stems from her not having another option in the villa. I hope somebody comes in who's her type because she needs to just take a breather. She needs to take a breather. It will all be okay. If Casey sways, I feel like Anaya will be saved because the public loves her, but I just need her to kind of just chill for a second. Now, the night doesn't end there. They get a text. Kata gets a text while she's at the fire pit and basically says that the hideaway is open. I'm not going to lie. Not that I think that it's a little too early. I just did not realistically see anybody have potential or to be that solid to go into the hideaway. Yes, Bryce and Trinity, but Bryce just spoke to Kata, and Kata and Zach just came off of that weird moment last night where they didn't want to be intimate, and now all of a sudden they're in the hideaway together. So I don't know. I feel like they were the most obvious, but other than that, who would you guys have picked to go into the hideaway? I think they could have maybe saved the hideaway for a few more days, let these couples get a little stronger, and then go into the hideaway. But all in all, it was a great episode. It was very much like a filler episode, but we had great conversations. One thing I do love is that this cast seems to be so mature compared to last season's cast, which honestly makes it a joy to watch. I don't feel like I'm getting emotionally abused. Although we had Melanie, I don't think I'm getting emotionally abused as I did last season. So I'm hopeful for the rest of the season. So all in all, it was a great episode. We have a great teaser for tonight. We'll see where Caleb and Kenzie's connection goes. If she keeps on doing this thing with Corbin, she asks for a kiss. It's too much. I feel bad for Melanie. Because she went from one love triangle to the next. But overall, great episode. We have a lot to look forward to tonight. They didn't give us too much other than just the hideaway and Corbin and Kenzie. So what do you guys think we're going to get tonight? Ian did say that we have another vote coming soon, I think this week. Make sure your phones are registered before the vote so that we don't have another app crash. But yeah, pop off in the comments. We had a great episode. I want to know all your hot takes. Make sure you're following us across all our social media, specifically our Facebook. We post the most there. When I can't step away from the fam to do a little video, we do post so much content on Facebook. The link is going to be in our description. So make sure you check that out and keep an eye out for new magnets dropping this week on our stores. So with that being said, pop off in the comments. I love you guys so much. I hope you have a great and blessed week, a great and blessed Monday, and we'll catch you guys later for some more reality tips. Bye y'all. Happy Monday.